The infantryman's war is the dirtiest, roughest job of them all. I should know. I spent 2 months fighting with Patton's Third Army as it swept through France, Germany, and Austria in the final days of World War II. Those 60 days changed my life forever. It was a sunny July morning in 1943 when I said goodbye to my parents and headed off to war. I told them not to worry. I'd write home as often as I could. Dad dropped me off at the Denver Induction Center. I remember tears running down his cheek as he tried to say, "I love you, son," but nothing came except a sob of grief. I put my hand on his shoulder and walked quickly into the center before he could see my own tears. In 1920, Warren and Dorothy Joy had moved from Iowa Farms to Denver, Colorado, where I was born on July 21st, 1924. My father owned a small engineering company, and my mother shared her love of music with her 4 children. Eldest was my sister, who played the piano. I played the clarinet, and my 2 younger brothers played the flute and the cello. We were a happy family, and despite the hard times during the Depression, I don't remember my parents ever having an argument. I graduated from high school in June 1942, 6 months after Pearl Harbor. I dreaded the thought of fighting Japanese in the infantry. I had a passion for airplanes, and my dream was to be a fighter pilot. So I enrolled to study aeronautical engineering at the University of Colorado. In June 1943, I finished my freshman year there, and to avoid being drafted into the infantry, I volunteered for early induction into the Army Air Corps. After basic training, I was unable to fly because of poor eyesight. I was happy to be sent to a unit of the Army Specialized Training Program, or ASTP, at the University of Idaho to continue my engineering studies and hopefully become an officer and a gentleman. But Eisenhower needed 200,000 more infantrymen as cannon fodder for the coming invasion of France. So the ASTP was canceled, and in May of 1944, I found myself in the infantry at Fort Benning, Georgia. Still a private in G Company of the 5th Infantry Regiment, 71st Infantry Division, as gunner in a 60mm mortar squad. 7 months later, we were headed for France and entered combat in the Alsatian Mountains on March 11, 1945. Our bloodiest battle took place on Palm Sunday, March 25, 1945. G Company led the attack on the towns of Lingenfeld and Germersheim on the banks of the Rhine River. I remember being pinned down, struggling unsuccessfully to dig a mortar firing pit in the hard, rocky ground as German machine gun bullets whizzed overhead. It was hot and terribly frustrating not to be able to return fire with our mortar during the entire day. By the time our tanks arrived late that afternoon to end the battle, 11 members of G Company lay dead and another 20 were wounded. The next morning, I volunteered to help bring in the body of a dead man named Quinn. As we laid him down by a fence and covered him with a raincoat, I remember thinking, I didn't know you, Quinn, but I grieve that you died so young. May you rest in peace. This first close encounter with death has haunted me ever since. But the battle that left the deepest scar on my memory came on April 2nd, 1945, when I led a squad that participated in the annihilation of the German 6th SS Mountain Division Nord in the Bödiger Forest northeast of Frankfurt. Until that day, I had never seen any Germans killed by my mortar fire, But that bloody afternoon I came face to face with the enemy. In a few minutes I fired my semi-automatic M1 rifle as fast as I could, killing and wounding several SS troopers. When the guns fell silent and we walked out into that killing field, I felt numb and sick to my stomach at the sight of the dead and wounded, overwhelmed with a deep sadness at what I had done. After the war in Europe ended, I met and married an Estonian war bride. We returned to Denver, and I completed college at Colorado University on the GI Bill. We raised a daughter, and I had a successful 42-year career as an aeronautical engineer. That first marriage did not last, but I remarried. For the last 31 years, I have had the love of my dear wife Annie. Since then, life has been good to me. I am basically an optimist, but I am sad to say that I don't think we'll ever see the end of wars. At least not until enough people understand what I felt as I walked across that bloody battlefield so many years ago.